All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Stallings. This is Owen Jones. We're both officers of Second Thursday. This is a Dallas Art Collective. And this evening, we're basically discussing the concept of art theft, a few notable thefts, and kind of their implications, and going beyond that, kind of what does it mean to be somebody who is a patron of the arts, and why would somebody steal work? I mean, the monetary motivations. What would there be? Personal motivations, ethical, so on and so forth.
Sure. It's not like you can just go down the street and sell it.
Yeah, pretty much. So the first one we're going to talk about is the case of the woman in gold, which is Maria Altman, who's an Austrian woman who later moved to the United States after escaping Nazi occupation in Germany. Her uncle commissioned what is arguably Klimt's most famous painting, which is The Woman in Gold, for his wife, who is Mary's aunt. And basically, in the process of Nazi occupation, they confiscated the painting along with a lot of their other property. And somebody within the German ranks basically thought it would be advantageous to not, destroy the art. But they basically confiscated it and kept it for the Austrian government. Years later,
so the Nazis kept the girl's painting. Is what it was. She had to leave home, and the Nazis, not only stole the country but stole the painting.
Yeah, basically. And years later, she got an American IP lawyer.
An IP lawyer, okay.
And to help her kind of take the Austrian government to court. There was a lot of back and forth. The Austrian government tried to kind of broker a deal with her where she could kind of like have it part of the time. And so basically, her whole thing was like, no, this is my painting. This is my family's property, and I want it back. In this case, the painting had become so synonymous with the national identity of the country, like that was their Mona Lisa. So they had a really hard time letting go of it.
But now, how much time passed between this young lady leaving the country during Nazi occupation and then her finding a lawyer and asking for the painting back?
I believe it was she started pursuing the painting in the 90s.
In the 90s, so
that's a long time.
Fair amount of time.
Yeah,
it's a fair amount of time. I'm not going to quote any numbers because then somebody will be like, "You're wrong."
Yeah.
But, we'll just call that more than 5 years.
Well, decades. Almost 5 decades, yeah. But yeah, basically,
decades later, she came to the Austrian government and said, "Hey, give me my money back. Give me my painting back." Excuse me.
Yeah, and she eventually got it back, and it was gave it to a New York gallery owner to, display, and she would.
Oh, she didn't keep it. She put it in a gallery. She sold it into a gallery.
She didn't. Don't quote me on that. I need to watch the end of the movie again, but I'm fairly sure she still kept some amount of ownership over it.
Gotta watch the end of the movie. I mean, how else are we going to learn about history?
If we don't watch movies about it.
Watch the end of the movie.
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
It's been a couple years since I've seen this movie. But, basically, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, really, it speaks to how highly some cultures, some countries really do elevate the value of a piece of art.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it really what it sounds like to me is, and not to say that the lady was wrong, but it was a way to seek retribution for what had happened, and rightfully so. I mean, you fucking Nazis, go get them any way you can.
Pretty much.
But it's not like she kept it and then hung it in her house, and it had this emotional. I don't know. It's not mine. It's, kind of touch subject. It could be, I guess, but it seems like it would have more of a. I have a way to. I don't know, because she didn't keep it, right? She put it in a gallery.
Yes, I mean, as far as the display goes, she basically said, "Hey, I want the world to see this painting."
Right. That's an interesting story.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't just hoard it for her own use. Like she lived in LA, so she didn't just be like, "No, I'm gonna keep this in my living room and never show it to anybody."
Sure. Just talk about it at parties.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Stuffy LA parties.
Welcome to LA. So it is interesting. I mean, if I remember right, the kind of fallout of that case basically led to a lot of other families coming forth and coming in and basically coming to not only Austria but other countries and saying, "Hey, this was taken from us.
Right.
We want our stuff back."
Sure, absolutely.
So, I mean, in that case, there was definitely a silver lining that went just beyond her painting.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, you also kind of that kind of ties to the whole argument. You remember Indiana Jones? He's always saying like, "This belongs in a museum. This belongs in a museum."
Yeah, and that he doesn't like snakes.
Yeah, and unless it's in the case of Temple of Doom, he just says, "Well, we'll just leave these magic rocks for somebody else to steal." It doesn't belong.
That is true. That is true.
But yeah, I mean, that's the whole.
The town was dying.
But yeah, in this case, that's the whole idea that like England and other countries have used this argument to basically confiscate like artifacts from Greece, Egypt, saying, "Well,
is England going around asking people for?" It seems like they should be handing things out as opposed to asking for things back. Yeah. Nobody wants their damn tea.
Especially us, right?
We'll just toss it in the river. Okay.
America. Okay, so moving on. Okay. We're going to kind of bring up the whole case of the individuals who stole multiple pieces of art from the Whitworth Art Gallery in.
Oh yes, the Whitworth.
In 2003. So basically, kind of the fallout of that theft. These were very, very valuable pieces. Gauguin's, Van Gogh's, Picasso. The paintings were fairly quickly recovered, and the paintings came with a note, and it says the intention was not to steal, only to highlight woeful security. And it's very, very crudely drawn note too. But yeah, the whole idea is
there weren't artists that stole the paintings and returned them. They were just.
It could have been anybody. But
it seems like a silly. If you're gonna go through all that trouble just to prove a point,
Right, and there's definitely there's more speculation to the effect of that the authorities in England basically decided, well, these are not actually, they weren't really stealing to make a point. It was more to the effect of, well, they probably think they couldn't make any money off of it, or they don't know anything about the black art.
They didn't know who who needed money laundering.
Basically,
see,
they just weren't resourceful enough.
Yeah. That was always, I heard on NPR, where I get 90% of my information because I'm a middle-aged white man. My understanding is that when people steal art, this is my favorite part about art theft, because we got to admit art theft and jewel theft is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I personally don't have the finances to support such a hobby, but if I did, you're damn right I would go do that. Anyway, my understanding is when art is stolen, it's then sold to like criminals for cash value, and that's how they launder money as well as if they ever get caught, they can be like, "Hey, I've got this painting here that you guys want. Let me out, and I'll give it back to you. Otherwise, I'll burn." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was always. But you know, if you don't know a criminal, a professional criminal,
Yeah.
or you know, you like I said earlier, you can't sell it on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You could, not for much.
That being said, I mean, you've got to imagine there are lots of people who, you know, would really go out of their way to really try to get some valuable art, and without having to, you know, I mean, the motivation might be, well, I can buy it for less, but in that case, you think you could just do it the legitimate way.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, in either way, anybody who's going to steal a piece of art is probably going to want to ask for more money, or at least the same amount.
Right. Right. I mean, it's going to cost you something to steal it, right? So you gotta cover your costs.
Right. But I mean, there's also the aspect of like people just have this very personal attachment to art. I mean, there's a lot of like, if you look through history, there's a lot of intrinsic, you know, just cultural cachet kind of attached to it. It's not just a pretty picture on the wall.
Right. Right.
Okay, so on to the next one. More recently, there was a whole series of Warhol prints of the Campbell soup cans stolen from an art museum in Springfield, Missouri.
Springfield, Missouri.
Which is interesting because, I mean, you know, Springfield, Missouri, not exactly, you know, known for being the art center of the universe, but, you know, every city effectively has some form of like support for the arts, museums, galleries, things like that.
Right.
And in this case, it's really interesting because, I mean, Warhol's works were so commonly reproduced, especially in these. These are all like, I've probably seen those Campbell soup cans in like 5 different galleries or museums.
Right.
And I can think of it, especially the DMA. I know I've seen them there.
Right. Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah. So, what do you think about? I mean, do you have any thoughts about all these? Like, you know, what makes people? What do you think is going through their head when they say, "Oh, I want to steal a piece of art"?
I mean, I think it's the same reason that somebody smokes a cigarette, because it's cool, like James Dean.
It's like a thrill, yeah.
And I mean, you know, it's I don't know why it seems like it would be such an orchestration.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's not like you could just walk, like stealing a candy bar, just walk in and pocket it and run away. You know, like it would be such an orchestration. And then not only that, you'd need to know somebody afterwards. So why you would do it, like, it's a hassle. You know, stealing art or stealing jewels, that's a hassle.
Yeah.
Why you gotta, you know, the payoff's gotta be big.
Yeah, and have you ever seen the film Entrapment? It was the last movie Sean Connery did.
I have. Who played the female heartthrob?
Catherine Zeta-Jones. Yeah.
Catherine Zeta-Jones. Yes, I remember very well.
Yeah.
She wore a leather suit, I believe, like if I remember correctly.
Quite well, yeah.
Yeah, and cartwheels and laser acrobatic around tricks.
Yeah. So
I want to watch that again.
Yeah, and that's an interesting movie, not only because you get a lot of this, but you know, and all convoluted like Hollywood plots aside, you know, like the whole idea is purely for profit. I mean, in that case, they're stealing jewelry and a mask and like artifacts, but you know, these. I mean, this is definitely like a fantasy scenario. Like these are people in like, you know, these fantastical Hollywood scenarios where they're just like, well, there's money, but there's also the thrill of it. You know, it's a slight exaggeration, but culturally, you know, we've kind of investigated this idea that like it's a thrill-seeking thing.
Yeah, I think that there has to be a thrill seeking about it. You know, I mean, it seems like there's a thrill seeking. There would be a thrill seeking aspect to any sort of theft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, what was that actress who was stealing? Winona Ryder was stealing shit, right?
Oh, she was shoplifting.
Yeah, I mean, this was a long time ago. You know, back when I was in high school, I remember reading this in the National Enquirer while waiting for my groceries. So maybe it's not right. But my point is that you don't steal because some do, but generally it seems like folks like that, you're stealing art, or there's a thrill involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I was taking a real long way around telling you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else you think we can add to this, or does that sound about it?
A couple high fives. How's that? There's one. High five. I'd like to, note to Blab Software, I'd like to be able to high five myself here.
All right.
All right. That's all. That's it, man. I think that's a pretty interesting story. So I think that again, art theft is probably one of the cooler crimes.
Yeah.
Not that we're promoting criminal behavior or activity.
Right. Well, another thing I wanted to bring up.
Book theft.
What?
What?
Well, I mean, especially in the case of the Whitworth,
The Whitworth. You got to say the Whitworth.
This is going to make for some interesting content. I think we should totally post this. Anyway, the whole idea is that in that regard, the gallery's got to be pumping millions of dollars into insurance. You would think.
Well, yeah, I think that's something we didn't really cover. That's a real good point. The gallery's not gonna lose. It's an insurance scam, ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah, galleries. I didn't really think that galleries probably have to have a good gallery probably has to have some pretty spectacular insurance recovery on that. So I think that if I was going to look at anybody who was stealing art, I would definitely go to the gallery
instead of a museum, because the museum's they've got to have good security, right?
You think that would be part of the insurance?
Yeah.
Because I can't remember what I was going to say.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead. Thanks, Owen. Well, that was regular second Thursday discussion.
Yeah, that was great. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Jason.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. So thank you very much.
Adios.
Bye.